Hi everyone, this is Ambition Podcast. I'm Ellen Buchan, Insights and Communications Assistant at AMBA. Last month, I caught up with Bernard Marr. We spoke about the implications of AI, whether it was being properly governed and its ability to help with healthcare, and also the coronavirus. We also touched upon the future of digitalisation and the impact that they will have on the future of business. Enjoy. So, hi Bernard. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career, please?
Yes, so I was born in Germany, then moved to England to study at Cambridge, where I finished my degrees, and they then offered me a job. So I thought this was great. I don't have to find a job. So I joined the academic staff there. I worked at the Judge Institute at the business school there, and then moved from there to another business school, to Cranfield School of Management, where I worked for 10 years, doing a bit of consulting work, research and teaching. And then about 10, 12 years ago, I left the university setting and now just work for myself, doing three things. I still do the writing, so I write books. I've written 17 books. I write for Forbes and write for LinkedIn. And the second thing I do is I could do consulting work. So I work with major brands all across the world and government organizations, helping them with their strategy and their digital transformation. And the third thing is I do speaking and keynotes and training. And I still do a bit of teaching for various business schools.
And where did you realise your passion for technology?
It really started early on in my career when I was doing my dissertation at Cambridge. It was on the technology companies would use to manage and measure performance. So it was all about how they display their KPIs, how do they create dashboards, and I was doing an evaluation of all the different software packages as my dissertation. And this was then picked up by Gartner and released as a Gartner report on performance management software packages, which then really catapulted me into the technology industry. And then I've just followed along, because what was management information systems then moved into analytics, then into big data, then into artificial intelligence. And then I started writing for Forbes as a technology writer. And now I work as a futurist that looks at all key technology trends that are going to make an impact on the world.
And so what industries are you most excited about the impact that AI can have?
In terms of artificial intelligence, which I think is the most significant business trend at the moment, I actually call this the intelligence revolution. Some organizations talk about, or some commentators talk about, the fourth industrial revolution. For me, AI is the most significant business trend, and it will actually impact every single business in every single industry. It will help businesses, or it will force businesses to reimagine their products, to make them smarter. If you just think about companies like Braun that now build AI into their toothbrushes that give you feedback on how well you've brushed and whether you've missed out a tooth or a certain part in your mouth. It is helping companies to reimagine the services they're offering. If you think about Netflix and what they're now doing with recommending the next film that you will watch using AI. And then it helps companies to also reimagine and rethink their own operations, where companies like Alibaba, the e-commerce giant in China, is now using AI in most of their operations, including writing the product description. So this is now completely automated, where an AI will pick up a product and write the description for it that could potentially be even customized to different viewers. So every industry will be impacted, but the two I'm particularly excited about, where I think it will make a huge difference, is education and healthcare. Healthcare, especially at the moment, we realize how hugely important this is, and AI, I believe, can automate, can improve a lot of things in healthcare and in education too, where I believe the current education model is pretty broken. It was set up for the previous industrial revolutions. We now have this intelligence revolution where people well, we need to come up with new ways of teaching people, and one way to do this is to use some of the tools. It's a bit like video games, that if I play a video game, the video game will automatically understand how good I am, and then therefore adjust the levels and to make it fun for me. And we can do the same with teaching, and a teacher can't do this. He or she can't differentiate this in a classroom of 30 kids to give everyone this kind of experience. We need to rethink how we balance this and give people this digital experience, as well as the face-to-face benefits of and class interactions that we need.
Do you think there's a dark side of AI? Can we stop human bias from interfering with it?
I think what we're seeing at the moment is that we are seeing biases in our artificial intelligence systems that reflect some of the biases we have already in society, and there's some implicit and some explicit biases. So, for example, if in the past, when a group of people made a decision about giving a prisoner parole or not, no one knew how those people made those decisions. So it was completely non-transparent. But we somehow believe that people, because they can make those decisions, haven't got any biases. And of course they have biases. When we then pass some of those decisions to AIs, which is exactly what is happening at the moment, lots of parole decisions are now made by artificial intelligence tools. And what is happening is that sometimes they can be biased in the same way humans can be biased. But actually what this allows us to do is to make this whole process a bit more transparent. So lots of AIs at the moment are these black boxes where we give them data, they then learn from this data, they make a decision, and no one quite understands how this works. What is happening at the moment is that we're trying to make this whole process a bit more transparent, and we try to understand, are there any biases in the data that the algorithm is using? So we're training an algorithm to find the next president of the US, and we simply feed the data of all the previous presidents, and we'll find another middle-aged white male, and so what we need to do is we need to think about what data are we feeding it. And actually for me, using AI enables us to actually reach even higher standards, to really think about what biases we have in the data, what potential biases we have in the algorithms, and trying to eliminate those. And so, for example, I've done some work with Unilever, and Unilever now uses artificial intelligence to interview candidates for jobs. And they use AIs to evaluate their CVs, to then conduct the interviews. And what they have found is that they're recruiting a much more diverse talent pool using this process. So the whole focus was on actually eliminating some of the biases that we have. And for me, this is a real opportunity, trying to understand how these systems are working, what data we're feeding it, what algorithms are being used, and therefore trying to eliminate and highlight some of the biases that we might have in those systems.
It's interesting, you use some kind of governmental examples in your answer. Do you think that governments and regulators are keeping up with digital disruptors like AI and are able to create policy that is adequate in controlling it?
This is a very good question, and I guess you know the answer already, that they are not, because this field is evolving so fast that regulators simply can't keep up at the moment. What is interesting, though, is that we are seeing new regulations coming in, and because this field is moving so fast, we've seen a bit of a wild west for some time now, where companies simply got away with anything, and even if the regulators came along to tell them off, they would be very happy to pay some fines, because the business benefits have outweighed some of the fines that they might have to pay. And I believe this is changing quickly. So there's the European Union, European Commission, they've now put in place stricter regulation. In the US, we have seen stricter regulation that basically force companies to be more transparent and make sure that they use AI ethically. And this is one of the things that every company I work with, I make sure that their AI projects are as transparent as they can be and as ethical as they can be.
What about on a personal level? As someone who's an expert in this field, are you concerned about organisations owning your data and using your data? And do you have any advice on keeping safe?
Yes, absolutely. And I think what we need is more transparency, and we need more trust in all of this. I believe that lots of companies are not getting this right at the moment, and I have serious concerns. I'm extremely careful about where I'm sharing my data, what I'm sharing, with a view to who will then use this data. So if I'm putting anything on Facebook, everyone should know by now that Facebook will use this data. And Facebook is now able to, simply based on your data, they can now determine with pretty high levels of accuracy your level of intelligence, your sexual orientation, your religion, whether you're depressed or not, and so on. And everyone has to make their own judgments. Do they trust companies like Facebook to hold this kind of insight? And if not, they need to be very careful about sharing it. On the other hand, Apple have a slightly different stance. They say your data is your own. We are never going to access your data. We won't analyze it, and we will give you complete control. And as a consumer, I would trust Apple with my data much more than I would Facebook, for example. But for me, what companies need to do is they need to make sure that they build consumer trust, because at the moment we still have this Wild West situation where lots of people don't understand what is happening. They happily click the consent button on the user agreements, which nobody ever reads, and even if you did read them, you probably wouldn't understand them. So we click yes, we're happy to share and for the companies to use my data. And I think in the future, having this trusting relationship will become much more important, because consumers will be more aware of what companies can potentially do with the data, and therefore choose those companies that they trust. So for me, the key for businesses is to think about how do we build this consumer trust, and how do we actually share value back. So people are happy to share the data with me in exchange for some real value for them. And I guess at the moment, companies see, or individuals see companies like Facebook, and so actually they're offering me a free social media site, so therefore I exchange this for my data. But I think more people are becoming wary whether this is actually the right price to pay for that.
It's interesting you talked about social media there, because I had a look at your Twitter account, and I was really interested to see that you tweeted about how coronavirus was causing companies to digitally fast track. Do you think that organisations are still slow in the uptake of digitalisation? And do you think there'll be a long-term implication of coronavirus on the digital revolution?
Completely. So one of the articles I've just written for Forbes is how the coronavirus pandemic is actually fast-tracking digital transformation in businesses. And we're seeing this with, so if you think what is happening at the moment, some companies that have only operated through physical channels, through shops, they are now really finding it extremely difficult. And those companies that have moved to digital channels, they can switch from physical to digital channels. They have set up the infrastructure, things like cloud computing, that enables them to operate their business remotely, where people can happily work from home, and where they still have the security enabled. Those businesses that have done all of these things are now thriving. They can carry on with their business. And the other thing we're seeing is it's fast tracking lots of things that organizations have talked about for a long time. So I've always wondered why my local doctor's surgery, for example, is not offering me a video call to do some telemedicine. Because why would I want to go to drive to the doctor's surgery, to sit in the waiting room, to potentially get infected with any diseases when I'm there, when I can do this from the comfort of my home? I could even, this is what we had 20, 30 years ago, when doctors would do home visits. So, and we can now replicate this with technology, where I can have a video call with my GP, and all of these technologies are now being fast-tracked because of the current crisis, where doctors simply can't see patients, where we have restrictions on movement and social distancing regulations. So what I'm seeing is that this is clearly fast-tracking this, and I see this even in my kids' schools now. Some of the schools, luckily my kids go to school go to schools where they have had digital systems set up, where they have digital learning platforms. So for them, education hasn't really been affected that much. Whereas I see other parents where their schools haven't had those systems in place, and they're now trying to figure out how to get some schoolwork to their kids. So, I think this experience will make all companies realize that they need to fast track their digital transformation and make sure that they're in a much better position in the future.
That's really interesting, and I think that coronavirus will have a huge impact on a lot of sectors, but technology is a really interesting one. I also read an article of yours on the Internet of Bodies and how employees at a company called Flea Square Market were microchipped to allow them to gain access to the company building. And I was just really interested in this. And do you think this will be a trend that will continue, or do you think it'll be a kind of human rights backlash?
So the Internet of Bodies is definitely a major trend. What I'm seeing is that we are merging technology and our human bodies at the moment. And this sometimes seems very futuristic, but it actually is not something new, because we've had aids that help us to do things and help us to do things better for a very long time. If you think about someone that can't see very well, we give them glasses. Nowadays, we have the ability, if someone loses an arm or leg, we can have a very advanced robotic arm that we can even control with our minds. We can now implant insulin pumps into our bodies, and we can use contact lenses that will measure the glucose level in our tear liquid, that can then communicate with our implanted insulin pump to make sure our insulin is regulated. So for someone with diabetes, it will completely transform their lives, because they don't have to inject, they don't have to monitor, and so on. And I believe this is all a transition that will only increase. We now have this ability to 3D print body parts. We have now medication that is intelligent, so I can swallow a little pill that will take a gut biopsy and then send the information to my smartphone. So this technology will only improve, and what I'm seeing in the future is that partly the human body will merge with more technology and more robotic parts to create a human 2.0 at some point.
But what do you think about companies accessing this data? Because for me, I don't know if I'd want to be microchipped to access my company. Do you think this, like the company's use of it, will continue to get more advanced as well?
Yeah, I think what we need to do is we need to be very careful of how we put all this in place. So if anyone can access my data, so if you think about wearing a fitness tracker, modern Apple Watches are as good as medical devices in hospital to do to measure your heart rate and your heart performance. Do I really want my employer to have access to this? Do I want my healthcare my health insurance company to have access to this? So we have to be very careful about how we put those systems in place. So you're absolutely right. But I also believe that technology can help with all of this. So what we need to make sure is that implement this all ethically, and we create trust, and we give people control about the data so that it can't be exploited. And in terms of technology, things like blockchain will be able to help with all of this, because if my healthcare record, for example, which is fed by my Apple Watches and some implants that I might have, and that gives me a very accurate understanding of my current health and might even predict future ailments. If I'm in control of this information, because it's stored in the blockchain, I can give people access and I can take access away and I can monitor who is viewing what, that I think will help to develop more trust in those systems. But as always, at the moment, lots of things are pretty open and are open to be exploited.
What about business school graduates? Do you see them having the right knowledge on these key technologies such as AI, big data, or blockchain?
No. So I obviously know the business school world pretty well. I've been teaching MBAs and business school students, and I still carry on doing this. And what I see is when I teach my classes, they usually see this as a huge eye-opener when I talk about some of the key future tech trends. And one of the reasons why I wrote my new book, Tech Trends in Practice, was to really highlight the 25 technologies that are really driving this fourth industrial revolution. And so what I believe we need to do is we need to bring more of this technology into business schools. We need to make sure that every MBA student is exposed to all of those key trends, and they have a chance to reflect on what this will mean for the future of their businesses and industries.
What would your advice be for business schools on how they should stay up to date and ensure their content remains relevant?
I think what is really important is that business schools also have their own digital transformation. What I find is that lots of business schools are pretty risk averse. They are very happy to teach in the way that has been done for the last 100 years. And again, very similar to businesses, those business schools that have relied too heavily on in-class education and traditional channels are now finding it really difficult. Whereas if you look what is happening in some other business schools, so for example, Harvard Business School has had the digital classroom for a very long time, where everyone can dial in, they can all interact with each other, the professor can sit there and interact with everyone individually as well as the classroom, and they've had this for many years. So for them, this current pandemic hasn't really meant major business disruption, because they could just carry on and they can just shift channel. And for me, this is what needs to take place more. Business school need to try a few more things and need to take a few more risks and move a bit faster and bring some of the digital technology and some of the digital teaching into all their courses.
And what about on the other side? What advice would you give to a graduate who wants to be a manager in a digital organisation?
So again, this is something I've thought about a lot over the last few years, and I've written many articles on future skills that managers need. And obviously, any manager that wants to manage in a digital organization needs to have the right technology skills and technology literacy and digital literacy, as well as a good understanding of how they can use data and data science. So for me, the understanding of technology and data literacy are vital skills. But then I would focus much more on the human skills, because if we think about how fast artificial intelligence algorithms are now evolving, they will soon be able to do lots of the cognitive tasks that humans can do, and they can probably do them much better. So there are lots of things we actually can't we can't compete against them, because they will be better than us. What they can't do at the moment is some of the more human things, like having empathy and emotional intelligence. Things like having critical thinking is vitally important. We're now bombarded with fake news and other things. So being able to understand where information is coming from, critically assess this, being able to be flexible and have the adaptability is really critical. Interpersonal communication, creativity, all of these things are vitally important skills of any manager in the future. And sometimes this is forgotten when we talk about future skills, we talk about technology and data. These are very important skills, but I would say the truly human skills will be much more important. And people that can develop both good technology skills, good data literacy, and balances with things like empathy, critical thinking, flexibility, ongoing learning, interpersonal communication, and creativity will be the ones that will thrive in the future.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I would love to do this again.
It is clear that AI and digitalisation is going to have a huge impact on the future of work. To learn more about this topic and many other topics, make sure and check out www.associationofmbas.com/ambition for a new piece of thought leadership every morning. And make sure to check out the next Ambition podcast.